Imagine this scenario. You're sitting comfortably on your sofa. Maybe you're reading a book, watching your favourite series, or just scrolling through social media. You're in your safe zone. You are relaxed. Suddenly, it happens. Your phone lights up. It starts to vibrate. That ringtone cuts through the silence like a siren. You look at the screen. It's an unknown number. Or worse, it's a friend. Your heart rate spikes immediately. Your chest tightens. You stare at the screen, literally willing it to stop. You don't want to pick up, but you feel guilty for ignoring it. You start calculating. If I don't answer now, I'll have to call back later. But if I answer now, I'm trapped. You wait. The ringing stops. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. You're safe again. If this sounds exactly like you, you're not alone. And you're not rude or antisocial. You're experiencing a very specific psychological phenomenon that affects millions of people around the world. Today we're going to dive deep into the brain of the phone hater. Why does a simple voice call feel like a threat? Is it social anxiety, or is it something else entirely? And why do you feel perfectly fine texting for hours, but freeze up the moment you have to speak? Welcome to the psychology of people who hate talking on the phone. Let's start by giving this feeling a name. Psychologists often refer to this as telephobia or telephone anxiety. But for most people watching this, it's not a full-blown phobia. It's a deep, visceral discomfort. In the past, the phone was a lifeline. It was the only way to connect. But today, communication has evolved. We live in the era of text, email, and instant messaging. Because of this, the phone call has shifted from being a tool of connection to a tool of intrusion. But let's look at the statistics. A recent survey of office workers found that 76% of millennials experience anxiety when their phone rings. They perceive a phone call as time-consuming and stressful. And it's not just young people. Introverts of all ages report that phone calls drain their social battery faster than almost any other activity. But why? The first psychological reason is the intrusion factor. Think about a text message. A text is polite. It sits there waiting for you. It says, "Here is some information. Respond when you are ready." It respects your time and your autonomy. A phone call is different. A phone call demands immediate attention. It says, "Drop whatever you're doing right now and pay attention to me." Psychologically, this feels like someone barging into your living room without knocking. It triggers a loss of control. People who value their autonomy and mental space often react defensively to this sudden demand for their attention. Now let's dig deeper into the neuroscience. Why is talking on the phone physically exhausting? Communication is not just words. In 1971, researcher Albert Mehrabian proposed a famous rule about communication. He suggested that a huge percentage of how we interpret feelings and attitudes comes from non-verbal cues, facial expressions, body language, and gestures. When you talk to someone face-to-face, your brain is constantly scanning their face. Are they smiling? Are they looking at their watch? Are they bored? These visual cues help your brain relax because you know where you stand. On the phone, you are blind. You strip away the smile, the nod, the eye contact. All you have is the voice. This forces your brain to work overtime. It's called cognitive load. Your brain has to hyper-focus on the tone of voice, the pauses and the breathing to interpret the meaning. You're constantly guessing. Was that silence a bad sign? Did I offend them? Why are they pausing? This intense focus requires a lot of mental energy. That is why a 20-minute phone call can leave you feeling more exhausted than a 2-hour coffee date. Your brain is running a marathon to fill in the missing visual gaps. The third factor is what I like to call the Live-TV-Effekt. Let's compare texting to calling. When you text, you have the power of editing. You can type a response, read it, delete it, retype it, add an emoji to soften the blow, and then hit send. You can curate exactly how you want to be perceived. You have a shield. A phone call is live improv. There is no backspace button in a conversation. Once you say something, it is out there. You have to think on your feet. For people who are perfectionists or slightly socially anxious, this is a nightmare. There is a fear of dead air, that awkward silence where nobody speaks. In a text conversation, a 5-minute gap is normal. On the phone, a 5-second gap feels like an eternity. Quiet became your favourite sound. You realised that the loneliest you ever felt wasn't when you were alone. It was when you were sitting in a room full of people who made you feel invisible. Isolation isn't the opposite of connection for you right now. It is the absence of rejection. It is the one space where you cannot be abandoned because there is no one there to leave. The detective of patterns. Now you are a detective of abandonment. You can spot the signs in the first conversation. You recognize the friend who only texts when they need to vent. You see the partner who loves you when you are fun, but disappears when you're struggling. You feel the transactional nature of relationships, where you're always the one paying the bill. You see the shift when the text gets shorter, when "let's hang out soon" becomes a placeholder for never. You've seen this movie too many times to sit through the ending again. So at the first sign of disinterest, the first cancelled plan, the first one-sided effort, you pull back, you cut the cord, you stop initiating, you stop trying, you wait to see if they notice. They rarely do, and that silence tells you everything you needed to know. Refusing to settle critics say you've given up on people. They are wrong. You haven't given up on connection. You have given up on pretending. You gave up on relationships where you have to shrink, perform, or beg to be seen. You gave up on the idea that crumbs of attention are the same as a meal. For years, you accepted being someone's last choice. You normalized relationships where you did all the emotional labor. Cutting everyone off is your way of saying, if this is what connection is, this endless performing and disappointment, then I would rather have none. You aren't cold. You're just done bleeding for people who don't notice you are wounded. You have replaced walls with boundaries. Walls keep everyone out indiscriminately. Boundaries keep the wrong people out to protect the sanity within.